Okay, so we are talking about air masses. And first, let's just go ahead and define what an air mass is. So this goes in your notes. An air mass is a huge body of air with similar temperature and humidity at a given height. So a big blob of air with similar conditions. Um, and then in your packet, uh, jot down what comes to mind when you read each of these words: maritime, continental, tropical, and polar. So the reason we're doing this is because these are the words that we use to define air masses. So we need to make sure that we're comfortable understanding what each means. So pause if you need. Okay, so maritime, the word maritime means from the sea or from the ocean. So think of marine or marina or um, there are so many other words with this word root that I can't think of at the moment. Mer is French for sea. So maritime means from the sea. Continental then means from a continent or from the land. So basically, we've got something from the water and something from the land. And then tropical, we just talked about where the tropics are on the globe, and it's that warm band near the equator. So tropical, we're just going to define as from near the equator. And finally, polar, hopefully you are thinking of the North Pole and the South Pole. So areas near the poles. So we've got the Arctic in the north and the Antarctic in the south. Okay, so you have this diagram in your notes. Hopefully you figured out that it is an outline of North America down through Central America there. We've also got Greenland. So we're going to use this as a base to draw the air masses that influence North America. So I'm going to add some arrows here, and then we're going to start labeling them. So the major air masses that influence North America. Let me just do all the arrows first, and then we'll go through and label them. So I'm drawing directions of major winds that play a big role in weather in North America. Okay, so let's start with, here we are in Massachusetts. So what is the major air mass that influences us much of the time? It comes from over the ocean. So that means this is a maritime air mass. So this is maritime. And then we have to decide, is this a tropical or a polar air mass? And basically what's asking, is it coming from near the poles or near the equator? And since this seems to be coming down from the north, it's polar. So this is a maritime polar air mass. And the way this is noted on maps is with the abbreviation of little m for maritime and big P for polar. I don't know why the capitalization is like that, but that's what it is. So maritime polar, going back to the definitions of the words, that means that this is an air mass that has a lot of moisture in it. So it's wet and cold because it's coming from near the pole. So this is an air mass full of moisture that is cold. So coming down here, we are still coming from over the water. So this is also maritime. But this one is coming up from the south near the equator. So this is maritime tropical. And the abbreviation for this is little m, big T. And of course, this is also wet. Oh boy, this pen is, I thought this was going to work better than it does. Wet and warm. Okay. Let's move back up here. So now we've got an air mass coming down from over Canada. So this is no longer maritime, right? It's not coming from over the water. This is a continental air mass. Continental. And it is polar, coming down from the north. Hopefully you can read that over the diagram. So this would be a dry, cold air. Okay, and the abbreviation little c, big P. Okay, let's switch down here to this air mass coming up over Mexico. Also continental, coming over Mexico. And this one is tropical. So little c, big T. And this one would be dry and warm. Okay, so hopefully you are seeing the pattern here, and I bet you can predict these last two. So this one here coming from over the Pacific, that would be maritime. My pen is giving up on me. Oh my gosh. Okay, maritime and tropical coming up from the south. Oh my God. Okay, little m, big T, warm and wet. And finally, last maritime polar. So notice that it has the same name as the one that we started with, because why is this getting like progressively worse? What is going on? I'm so sorry. Okay, maritime polar. So this one is moist and cold. So notice there are two maritime polar air masses, two maritime tropical air masses, and then the continental polar and continental tropical. Okay, so go ahead and good luck reading that and getting those onto your notes. Okay, and this is just a rehashing of the naming conventions and what they mean in terms of the properties. So first, let's do the two air masses that are wet. Those are the ones coming from over the ocean. So those have the word maritime in their names, whereas the air masses coming from over land have the word continental, meaning indicating that they don't have so much moisture, so they are a dry air mass. And then the warm air masses come in North America, come up from the equator, so those are tropical, and the cold ones come down from the North Pole area, so those are polar. And then let's see if we can do the symbols again. So it's little m, big T for maritime tropical, little m, big P for maritime polar, little c, big T for continental tropical, little c, big P for continental polar. All right. Okay. So now take a minute in your packet and draw a side view. What do you think happens when two air masses interact? So let's have a dry, cold air mass meeting a humid, warm air mass. So side view, what happens when these two masses of air come together and meet? What do you think that looks like? Do they mix? Do they layer? Do they what's going on?